before I start this review, oh my god, that fucking trailer. Holy shit. Oh man, I could go on about this for hours. But this is not a sci-fi channel, this is a horror channel, so let's get to my review. Welcome to Sinister Cinema Reviews. I'm your host, Red Nose. This is what happens when you take too hot of a shower. Okay, getting into Wish Upon. Oh, I went over, this came to Redbox. I didn't really have any desire to see this in theaters. I mean, if it came to my little theater here in the little small town I live in, I probably would have checked it out because I always like to support local horror when it comes to my town here, but it did not. So I did not see it. So when it came to the Redbox, technically today, I went ahead and grabbed it. Now, this is a movie I've definitely heard a ton of shit about. Like, oh, it's so horrible, it's so dreadful, it's so this and that. I think that people online haven't seen bad movies. Is this a good movie? No, it is not. Is this horrendously awful? No. This is not a horrendously awful fucking movie. It's not a horrendously awful horror movie. It's a well-made, when I say well-made, I mean that the production value is good, the directing is fine, the acting is good. This is an adequately made film. I'm not constantly rolling my eyes or looking at all this shit. Like, you want to see bad films. And I'm not just talking about budget. Let's throw budget aside. But come on. This is not the fucking worst movie. Now, let's get into the movie itself really quick. This movie has a pretty basic concept. A girl her father happens upon this box that can grant magical fucking wishes, and she goes and, obviously starts making wishes, and the wishes come true, but consequences follow. This is loosely based on the Monkey's Paw short story. Pretty loosely, obviously. It's not a monkey's paw, but pretty much the same concept. This has Ryan Phillippe and Sherilyn Fenn, which if you're a kid of the 80s and you've seen Just One of the Guys or you've seen The Wraith, oh, Sherilyn Fenn. How much I love that woman. I don't care what, she's just wonderful. This is also directed by the guy who did Annabelle, which, that kind of sends up a red flag because that movie's pretty generic. I don't think it's terrible, though. I did a review of it on here. I think that it gets hated on just like this. I think that's another prime example of a totally adequately made movie that's not super, awful. It's watchable. In fact, everything that happens outside of, the girl, like the main character storyline is totally lame. But I thought that central storyline was fine. And I almost feel the same here. Joey King, the girl from The Conjuring, the little girl from The Conjuring, plays the main character in this. She does a totally good job here. She's a good actress. And I felt for her character. And I liked that her character wasn't so good. In stories like this, a lot of the times you get characters that just make decisions that are so predictable. Is this movie predictable? Absolutely. But this is kind of a little bit of spoiler territory here, but I'm going to talk about spoilers at this point. Before I talk about spoilers, though, I will say this. Do I think that this is a horror movie for seasoned horror veterans? Absolutely not. They will think this is dog shit. As you can see online. I'm someone who can just look at a film how it is and judge it on its own merits. And I think that there's things going on good here. What I would recommend it to is an up-and-comer. Somebody who is, let's say, 10, 13, in that area. This is a PG-13 horror movie. And for a reason. This is very PG-13. This is meant for a 13-year-old audience. And I think that a 12, 13-year-old kid who doesn't like old horror movies and was like, I want to watch something to kind of get myself, into horror. What would you recommend to me? I think that like Annabelle and this, I think Annabelle's R though. Yeah, it is. So it feels really light though. Thinking back, I was like, that's a little darker than this one. This one's I guess a little bit more PG-13. Obviously, that one's R and this one's PG-13. But I think that this would be a good starter film for them. They're just like, oh no, I can't watch the old ones. Those are lame. But I don't want anything too gory or graphic, or I just like start me off light. I think this might be a pretty good starter film. I mean, it's set in high school. It's got a lot of the elements that they could relate to, and I think that it's well enough made that they'll enjoy it, and it might propel them into actually enjoying stuff in the future. So I think it's getting harshly judged by the demographic that it is not trying to cater to. Like, should this movie have catered to more seasoned veterans into the horror genre? Sure, yeah. It should have been more, open to a larger audience. But I mean, look at this film. I mean, it was made for, I think, what I said, $12 million, and it made $156 million. Does that mean it's good? Does that mean anything? No, but it appealed to somebody. Jesus Christ. So yeah, as I said, I'm going to get into spoilers now. Now, I liked that the opening was pretty grim. I like that, this little kid walks in on her mother killing herself. I thought that was, pretty dark for a PG-13 movie. I enjoyed her friend, the shit-talking, wisecracking friend who was constantly in everyone's faces and whatnot. I thought the acting was pretty good all around. It was interesting to see Ryan Phillippe back. I haven't seen him in a while. Everybody plays their part well. Is there any, amazing performances? I think that the main girl is pretty damn good. But outside of that, no, it's all just kind of adequate. It looks great. It's made well. I said that before. And I like that the character, as I said, is just not so like, well, I just want to make this all go away and I want to make it all right. Like, she actually struggles with it. She lets herself she lets herself go into a state of denial. Like even though I'm getting this great stuff, all this horrible shit's happening, but maybe they're not connected. Maybe, and then she basically ignores it as long as she can. And even when she finds out that it really is her wrongdoing, she still has a struggle. And she goes and tries to fucking take the box and threatens the dude that she's now into, the Asian kid. Like, I'll do away with you if you don't leave me alone. And she goes and she's like basically addicted to this fucking thing. It's brought her whole life. Like, she had no life before this thing, and now she has, a mansion and money, and she has popularity, and she's got bad things have happened, absolutely. But it wasn't just like, okay, like, this is bad. Okay, get rid of it. Like, I like that they took a little bit more of a realistic approach with that. Like, it was like, no, it's mine. Like, and then she realized, okay, I can't keep this. And she tried to get away from it. And obviously it ended up killing her. And I guess that would bring me into my negatives. But as I said, I'm not going to just sit here and bag on the film, because I do think that there are things in it that are worth mentioning, and I enjoy. It's got this, kind of Final Destination feel to it. It's basically what it is. It's like if you took the Monkey's Paw story and you blended it with Final Destination almost. The death is coming for them as soon as she makes a wish. It'll come from them any which way they can. I forgot to mention here that Jerry O'Connell just makes a really random cameo here. I don't know if he was like, he was in some kind of contract with whatever company this was and had to do it. I have no idea. So now, there was a point in this movie where it was like, after like 3 wishes, I was kind of like, all right, you've got the money, you've got this, like, it's time to stop. Like, there you go, stop there. And everything would have been fine. I mean, obviously some people would have died. I'm not really sure how this story goes, though. Like, do people just continue to keep dying, I guess, is what happens, and she just eventually has to get rid of it? So it's just a ticking time bomb. I mean, unless a total fucking psychopath was to get a hold of it, obviously, then he wouldn't give a shit. So now getting into the negatives. I mean, first and foremost, this movie is just not only so typical and generic in its premise, but it's almost completely predictable. Like, the ending is super predictable. Some of the wishes she makes. But as I said, in my positives, that she does not let it go so simply. But it is pretty damn predictable, obviously. And then, of course, like, just the generic, yet again, generic, but the generic archetypes of characters, from she's the loner, and she's, there's the bully, and the nerd crush kid, and the hot guy, and the know-it-all expert who can explain everything to him, just so happens to be related to one of the characters who can speak this language that's on. It's like, come on, how convenient can it possibly be? So those are my main things. It's just, it is generic. And I won't say that it isn't, and I won't say that I enjoyed the movie, but I didn't hate it. I didn't sit there like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? It's just like, this is fine. This is happening. I like little elements here, little other elements, like Sherilyn Fenn's death is like, that's not possible. I mean, it is supernatural, so I guess they could have had a supernatural force to it. But if your hair got caught in the garbage disposal, it would not turn you backwards and break your neck. That was fucking ridiculous. So yeah. Anyway, I've said my piece on this. If you're 13 years old and you're looking for a starter horror movie without a lot of violence and gore and whatnot, check it out. If you're someone who knows the horror genre and has seen it all, you do not need to watch this ever. All right. Red Nose out.